Hello and welcome to your Sunday catch-up with This Is Ibrox. As ever, couldn't do this myself, and I'm joined by JB. JB, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Probably like everyone tuned in. Still on a high from the other night, so yeah, always excited to talk about Rangers when things are going well, as opposed to using it as therapy. So yeah, the difference a couple of days makes.
Yeah, following Rangers is a bit like a Richter scale. It's just up and down constantly. Um, as ever, not just me and JB, but we're joined by all you wonderful viewers and listeners. If you're joining us on YouTube Live, please make sure you're commenting, send in your questions and your comments, and we'll get the best of them up on the screen. If you're listening on our audio only, which will be out tomorrow morning, hello to you guys too. And please make sure you're following, you're subscribing, and all the rest of it. And JB, we've not really going to hang about here. We're only on for half an hour tonight, but we'll start with the news that seems to be dominating stuff with Rangers just now. That latest update is Rangers have agreed a fee and terms with Senegalese centre-back Nobel Mendy of Real Betis, 20 years old. He's a left-footed left centre-back, which sets fireworks off. And apparently, according to sources, that it's now the player's decision between us and Real Vallecano. And it's up to him to make up his mind. Like, is this one that gets excited?
I think so. I think we've been saying since kind of the start of pre-season, haven't we? In terms of when you're starting to put your 11 together, or certainly looking to build that squad out, it's an area that's felt very light. I think obviously Leon Balogun was a big part of the left hand side, the centre half pairing last year. Going back even further, Ben Davis, Calvin Bassey. We've never replaced Bassey. I'm not going to use Mendy as the new Bassey. In fact, I've already done it. But he's almost a case of we've missed that profile on the left hand side. It looks like there's some really good work gone. Well, there's been work done. Whether it's going to be really good, time will tell. But obviously, Njigga's come in, been fantastic. I think that was really good performance from him the other night. Very rounded. He just looked comfortable. He looked like men against boys, which was so good to see. Obviously, Manny Fernandez has come in, so we're still waiting to see how he settles. We've only seen glimpses of him. A couple of times I've looked at him and thought, oh, you can see there's something there. But then I've seen other bits like against Middlesbrough where you go and who's this fella? So that's going to be an interesting one. But I definitely think the left-hand side is an area that needs addressed. And if we can bring somebody in with the potential that this lad's got, he can also play left back as well, which I don't think is a bad thing. So it just gives us another option. And again, in terms of what we know about him, he looks as if he's going to fit the profile of everything we're looking for. So no, it's one I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting over the line. I'd never heard of him 48 hours ago, but I've set my heart on him coming now after a few YouTube clips. So no, it's really interesting. As I say, should be a good one for us if we get it over the line.
Yeah, I love that you're honest about that. You had never heard of him. Like, nobody had ever heard of him, right? Let's be honest. I seen someone posting on X earlier, had him in his starting lineup with John Suter out, and I'm like, come on, you've never heard of this guy.
On
You've found
Saturday.
out about this, and all of a sudden he's better than John Suter. We've also got somebody asking in the comments here, who's responsible for the Nobel Prize headline? I'll hold my hands up. That was me. I joked, and Craig took the bait, and now we've got a headline. So anyway, what you touched on Giga there. I think he's been the standout performer so far. The whole what's the quote again? Never fall in love with a never fall in love with a lone player. Our own Ian Mitchell, who I can see in the comments here, put a tweet up the other night saying we've already fell in love with that lone player that we're never going to sign. But just the reason I touch on Giga is that we won't be able to afford Giga at the end of the season. We know that for a fact, right? He does look the part so far. He looks really good. But that's not to say that we can't go out and find the next Giga the same way that Wills found him at Red Star. There's nothing to say that we can't do that. And by all means, I'm not saying that Mendy will be the next Giga. Probably further away from that. But there's got to be... You know the way scouting goes nowadays, that it's very data driven and analytical, that they're probably looking at that profile now and saying, right, okay, what is it that Giga does that we can find in another player? And I really hope that that's the route that we're going down. The other thing that jumped out about Mendy for me was he was set to go to PSV. The deal was agreed. He'd agreed terms for £4 million. I don't know if it was euros actually, and it fell through due to permit issues. So, to me, PSV are probably one of the top dogs when it comes to bringing through youth players and signing sort of these players, and they then become sort of big stars. And you look at the boy, was it Bakayoko that ripped us apart that playoff into the Champions League and ended up at, am I right in saying Burnley, Brentford? Not one of their teams anyway. So that just shows that it can be done. The boy, I think it's Sangara as well that stood out, the Algerian boy, absolutely brilliant. So again, he's obviously of good pedigree. Now, don't get me wrong, 20 years old, he's not made many appearances at senior level. I think they signed him in 2024 from Paris FC. So I have full faith in our board and the investments and the signings that they've made so far. So fingers crossed for this one. It does look like it's one that would probably happen. The interest is genuine. We know that for sure. So yeah, excited about this one. And you said something, JB, and I meant to question you on it actually. You said about him he can play left back as well. Would you be satisfied if we signed him to cover two bases, if you get what I mean?
Or most definitely. I think we need to have players. We need to carry players who can do both. Ideally, you go on.
But as opposed to us signing a left back.
It just depends on what the expectation is of that left back. I mean, if we're looking for someone to get forward and offer something offensively and drive forward at pace, then Jeffy's kind of there. However, what we're probably going to want, and games at Ibrox, as proved the other night, Jeffy I think will be more than effective. He's still a really young lad with lots of development to go in front of him. And you've got to remember, Jeffy, since he's come in, has been, I was going to say playing with crap then, but he's almost been a case of he's been playing in a really underperforming team, which I think from the outside looking in it has looked really poorly coached. I've got somebody now that is, for whether we like it or don't, I think Russell Martin is going to be a really good coach. Hopefully that translates into really good results. But I think if you look at the likes of Philip Clement, he was very much a bit more of a man motivator. Didn't strike me as being particularly tactically astute, and didn't seem to grasp the fact that it was two very different games between Europe and domestically. Van Bronk still surprises me, the fact that he never grasped the difference between the two. But the difference when he was at Rangers, we would genuinely had world-class players. Do you know what I mean? We had Ronald de Boer, we had Arthur Newman, we had the Dutch captain. Imagine us having the equivalent of Van Dijk now. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of unthinkable. So I wonder whether he came to Scotland with a bit of a theory of, we've got better players, so therefore we'll win more than we'll lose. But as we know, it doesn't always work like that. So Jeffy, I still want to give a little bit more of a chance to. But if we had him for your domestic away games, and domestic home games and European home games, and you had someone like Mendy coming in when it's going to be a bit more rough and tumble, bit more, not going to say backs against the wall domestically, but somebody that can just give you that solid outlet. If we need to move to a 3, he can play left of a 3. If we need, and he just gives us that balance. The word balance and Rangers just seems to have came into light since Wednesday, because everything just looked really balanced. John Souther's obviously playing out of position. When I say out of position, out of his best position. I think I was on last week saying we do need an upgrade on John Souther. That said, I thought he had a really good. But if we're going to quick to criticise, we've got to be quick to praise as well. So I thought he played really well. But no, as you touched on, I know the Dutch government at the moment are scrutinising every single person that comes into that country. So the visa application process is horrendous. I don't think he's the only footballer in the last few months where a move to Holland has kind of fell through. Again, you can only go back on the YouTube clips. I watched an 8-minute one earlier where it was just highlights against Dundee Liverpool in pre-season from last year. And obviously friendlies and slightly different lens, but in terms of the basics of what you're looking for from a centre half, he's big, he's quick, he's strong, he can pick a pass. It looks like he was intercepting perception rate, interrupting possession, and obviously Liverpool attack at pace, and you can see that he's got the attributes to do that. So Again, we as a fan, we can only kind of dream whenever we get linked with someone, we want them to be brilliant. Ant-Man was another one. When we seen the YouTube highlights of him, we seen, oh, well, he doesn't seem to be spectacular, but one thing he does look like, he gets numbers. He hits the
Yeah,
byline. He gets crosses into the box. He can be a he can contribute with goals, and straight away that's translated into that's exactly what we've got. So if everything works out well, and I love the fact what you touched on earlier around the as we said, the PSV link, I think is kind of gives me a little bit more confidence. And let's not forget, he is a young lad. What is he, 2021?
yeah,
At the end of the day, La Liga is obviously seen as one of the top 5 leagues in the world. So people might look at it and go, well, if he's not getting a game for Real Betis, well, how does he get a game for us? It's a top 5 league. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to actually destroy these guys. Not too sure who Real Betis centre halves are, but looking at the profile and looking what we've seen so far, I think it's going to definitely be an interesting one. And he's had that little bit of European experience as well, having played I think he played a couple of games in the Conference League.
that's right, against
So
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina, I think, yeah. So I think it will. No, again, all we can do as fans is kind of get excited by these links and watch out and where they go. So no, but one I'm hoping to get over the line based on what we've seen.
Yes, by all means, for me, and I think I speak on behalf of you as well, this has got to be the most exciting transfer window since we didn't really have a transfer window when Advocate was in. We just signed everybody whenever we wanted.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
for me, this has definitely been one of the most exciting, not just signing players, it just feels like we're signing quality. And someone commented about, would this be a development player? It seems we're signing a lot of development players, and this is how you go about starting your player trading model. Like, coming into this season, you would have said, who's our developed players that would kickstart the transfer model? Probably Raskin, Igaman, Diamande a push. Now you're looking at, if these guys progress, you look at who I brought in: Fernandez, Telo Asgard, Antman, Gassama, Lyle Cameron, then probably the boy Mendy if we brought in. Let me think. I'm obviously missing folk as well. So you get the point that I'm trying to make. We're building a bigger pile of lottery tickets which you could cash in year on year if it goes well. So it's all got to come together, but we're thinking well ahead there. But Mendy is not the only link.
Just to finish on that, if you look at the players who've gone out from the because constantly you've got to improve your squad year on year. So if you consider the players we've lost, are Fernandez, Devine, Casemiro, Balogun, Hadji, Lawrence, Cherney is a sore one, and Robin Proper. And so far, as you say, Fernandez and Jigger, Aarons, Rothwell, Asgard, Cameron, Gassama, Antman, and still more to do. We're signing players good enough, I think, to start, as opposed to signing players for the squad. So yeah, it's good. And I just stole your thunder there. We're about to talk about someone else as well, aren't we? So
yeah, no, it was actually you that put him to me earlier in the group chat. So Rangers have also been linked to a goalkeeper, surprisingly, Carol Hine of Arsenal. I think he's got a year left in his deal. He's a 23-year-old Estonian goalkeeper. If I am right, did he spend last year on loan to Valladolid? So quite surprised at this. Jack Butland started well. We've also been linked with other goalkeepers in this window. The boy from Brighton, I forget his name. Maybe you can enlighten me, or someone in the comments can remind me of that. And also Pierce Charles from Sheffield Wednesday. So it looks like we are definitely after a goalkeeper. Do you think it's right to target a goalkeeper, JB, considering what we've already got? Or for me, sorry, just to jump in on that, it's a bit of a funny one because I don't think we target a goalkeeper if Jack Butland's not going to be number one, if that makes sense. I can't see Jack Butland sitting on a bench for the best part of the season.
Yeah, unless you were targeting the boy from Sheffield Wednesday, because you're probably going to get him on a knockdown deal or free. And you think, is he the Northern Irish number one, maybe?
That's correct, He's only 19, I think.
Yeah, so he's one that would come in for the squad, if you will, if he was to come in. But in terms of Carl Hine, again, we don't know too much about him, but doing a bit of digging, earlier on today, but he's Estonia's number one. So if he's good as Mark Poom, I don't know for those that your 1990s Premier League lovers, fantastic player. But 32 appearances last year, only 5 clean sheets in what was a relatively unsuccessful team. I think they might have got relegated. But he would have been kept busy. So in terms of his development, that would have been really good. Over 30 caps already for Estonia. So at the age of 23 to have 30 caps kind of says that he's decent. Now I'm not saying that the Estonian goalkeeper union is massive, but there's definitely something about him. I did do a bit of digging to understand what his skills were. Now his passing, short and long term, was very short and long distance. Sorry, was very similar to Jack Butland's. So that was almost a case of I did think, right, is this guy going to be a super passer of the ball, and then that's going to be a different profile? Because if that was going to be the case, I actually think you could run with 2 goalkeepers. I know it's historically then that's not always been something that we're conditioned to, but teams in the Premier League have done that on a regular basis. There's been many a time where Alisson sat on the bench at Liverpool and Keller came in at times last year. I think Chelsea have rotated keepers quite a lot. Tottenham have definitely rotated keepers quite a lot. So it is happening more and more depending on the type of game that you've got. Jack Butland, I don't think has done anything yet to kind of let us down this season. So hopefully that does continue, because I think there's no doubt if Jack Butland was on it and didn't have these blips that he's had throughout his career, he wouldn't be anywhere near us. Do you know what I mean? He'd be playing no doubt he'd be playing in the English Premier League. So we've just got to hope that he stays in the right headspace. Now, Jack Butland done an interesting interview with Sky just prior to the start. Was it Sky just at the start of the season? And kind of said how happy he is. He's settled. He's really determined to do well. There's no bids actually came in for him. He hasn't spoke to any other clubs. So he obviously sees himself here. But if we were to bring this guy in, and this guy's going to come in and want to be a number one. You don't have a season in La Liga as number one and then not be a number one. He could be one that we might buy and loan straight out.
I was thinking that
as something that we're not used to, again as fans, but that might be a potential option as well. So I think that's one just for us just to keep an eye on. To be fair, probably not one to get too excited about straight away, but it's a name that's kicking around. I know it's been mentioned on a few of the media outlets today. I know Heart and Hand referenced it in the last couple of days as well. So tends to be something in it if it's getting mentioned in them type of forums. So I want to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And another name that's been kicking about for a long time, and a wee bit of news just came out before we came on air. And it's funny that this has been wrote here. Comment in from Robert Fisher here. It will be a right kick in the WhatsApps if Dort Turgeman goes to New England Patriots. It's New England Revolution. I have been nearly saying Patriots all the time because probably watch more NFL than I do actual football nowadays. Dort Turgeman, I think I spoke about it last time we were on, JB. Just a wee bit frustrated with our striker situation, that it seems to be exclusive to just the striker situation, that we need to sell one before we buy one. But this hasn't been exclusive to any other position where we've signed players in. To me, if you want this boy, you need to go and get him, and you need to act quick, because it looks like there's a lot of clubs interested in him. He's only, I think, 21 as well, Israeli international. He's first team regular at Maccabi Tel Aviv. This, I think, I'd agree with Robert here that it would be a kick in the teeth if we missed out on this one, because it's certainly one that fans seem completely excited about, and it's a position which we need to improve on, because what we've got at the moment won't win us championships, and I'm quite happy to say that. Well, I'm not quite happy to say it, but I'll be honest and say that.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of expected some movement by now. I think it was interesting the manager saying last week that Dessers is the only bid that came in, and that fell well short. We've said for a long time, Cyril Dessers has got a part to play in any Rangers team. The problem we have is when we heavily rely on him. I think I might have said post-match on within the week around Dessers maybe not being our number 9 as we've seen him over the last few years might be a difference. Just so refreshing seeing players run past him. So we've seen Antman on the right and obviously Gassama on the left. that was just it was a joy to watch. Do you know what I mean? Whereas last season and the season before, we've just been so reliant on him, and I don't think he's good enough to be reliant on. So yeah, Turgeman's kind of one that's caught the eye, and any strikers we've been linked with over the summer, he's kind of been top of my watch list. I've even been watching like how he's been getting on in pre-season friendlies with Tel Aviv. I don't think he's hit the back of the net yet. But in terms of him, I think he kind of ticks a lot of the boxes. Southampton looked at him when Russell Martin was there, so you know there's a connection there with the manager. His stats last year were really good. He can also play off the left as well. So if you think about in terms of a different option there, obviously Gassama's going to be, he's like all touch wood and stays fit. We'll be starting 90% of our games, but he's another option that you can put out there on the left. Danilo, as you say, not going to be able to rely on him, one, to stay fit, and as it looks within this system, just doesn't look comfortable at all. I don't think there's going to be many suitors to buy him, unfortunately. And obviously Igaman is, what's going on? 7 to 10 days again, isn't it, with this guy? So initially I thought that was all because there was a deal about to go through, and therefore hence why he wasn't playing. However, that doesn't seem to be the case now. It just looks as if it is genuinely an injury. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I definitely think we need to bring in another number 9, and this guy can definitely fit that profile. As you say, he's done it all the way through the age groups in Israel. He was a standout in the one of the youth tournaments a couple of years ago, and he looks like somebody that can lead the line. He hold up play, quite similar to Miofsky from Aberdeen, who we've obviously been linked with as well. But this lad's obviously got a couple of years on, he's got age on his side, and definitely want to try and get over the line if we can. But it's all gone a little bit too quiet for my liking.
Yeah, and it dragged on a wee bit when you look at how the other transfers that we've had this year is kind of like we said at the start of the window, the name comes about, a couple of days he's signed, and that's how it's been working under this new regime at Rangers. Sorry, we're getting a few comments about a green and white advertisement, and I think it must be coming up on the screen while we're doing this. Just for reassurance here, we don't pick what's advertised on the screen. I think YouTube control all that. So while we're here as well, we are verging on about 200 of you watching live at the moment. So please make sure that you're all subscribed. I get that a lot of you guys could be new viewers, etc., etc. We're here every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday at 7:30, and most post matches from Ibrox, we will also be here too. So please make sure you're subscribing, and you'll get the wee notification to let you know we're here or whenever we've uploaded a video. And if you are listening on podcast, maybe for the first time or the first few times, make sure you're joining us and you're following us there as well.
Just on that, Kyran, if anyone is struggling to like and subscribe, like I know my dad would struggle to like and subscribe, sorry for calling him out, but if anybody is struggling, then just put a message in and we'll reach out to you privately and try and get you set up.
Absolutely. And we comment here from Luke Gibson. We appreciate that. My go-to Rangers YouTube channel. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate everyone that joins in the comments and stuff like that. If you do enjoy talking to everybody else, please make sure you're on the Discord as well. That'll be in the description. Anyway, enough of me trying to punt stuff. Second half of the show, JB. Dundee come to town on Saturday, 5:45 kick-off at Ibrox. We said at the top of the show, our form has been a bit of a Richter scale. We were on a high after Panathinaikos, back down again, Motherwell, and then straight back up again on Tuesday night with our best performance of the season yet against Victoria Pilsen. What are you expecting on Saturday, and what changes would you make to the team, if any?
Yeah, I'm expecting a whitewash. If we're not 4 up by half time, then I won't change. But no, I'm looking forward to Saturday. I'll be perfectly honest. When I thought of on Monday morning, I was dreading the week ahead because it was almost a case of, right, we've got a European game where we're going to have to bounce back. Then all the noise came out about the squad changes and the fallout and league teams, and you're thinking this is just prime banter years coming back to hit us in the face. Yeah. So in terms of us being able to bounce back midweek was fantastic. I just hope we keep that really strong momentum and take it into this week. I think in terms of looking at Dundee, first of all, I think these are probably favourites to get relegated in terms of the way they finished at the tail end of last season. The fans don't seem to be fully as much as not all of our fans are fully behind Russell Martin. Their fans definitely aren't behind Stephen Presley. So I think that's going to be an interesting one in terms of how that one pans out. But I was watching the highlights back from the game against Hibs that they played, and they looked awful. Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the only highlight they had was a cross that came in that the keeper held. They had one shot on target and scored. So they're clinical, if nothing else. So let's try not to give too many chances away. I think their whole style of play in recent years has been heavily reliant on Simon Murray, and he's already been ruled out. So that Robin Proper can sleep safe at night, knowing that Simon Murray's not kicking about. Hopefully he doesn't sign for the Dutch team and go and terrorise him over there. But in terms of changes, I mean, as much as you'd like to go with the same starting 11, we've got to be careful that we don't, nothing silly. Do you know what I mean? There's no point in putting, if a player's feeling anything at all, any fatigue, then it's going to be a long arse season. We've got to start building relationships, so it's key to finding the balance. But obviously, Aaron's limped off the other day, so potential for Tavernier to come back in. We've seen how good Aaron's is in terms of what he offers, the balance he gives us, the quality. There was one he pulled out the air after about 60 minutes. We had 2 or 3 men round and pulled the ball out the air, and just easy pass, just quality. But looks so much assured, and look to start to build up a really good relationship with Ant-Man in such a short space of time. So that'll be an interesting to see how that one pans out, but that'll be one or the other, I'd have thought. Probably would throw Fernandez in, so which might seem a bit controversial, but he's got to start getting minutes at some time. One thing we know, John Souttar won't play 70 games a season. He's not built for it, and I think he's actually on the back of the other day. I think I'd probably wrap him in cotton wool because I think he'd be more important to us away next week just to get that one over the line.
Yeah.
Fernandez, if we're saying that Dundee are going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and you can't start in front of a joyous Ibrox crowd, then you're never going to get a start. Let's not throw him in. I mean, how many times at Rangers have we thrown players in against old firm debuts? Do you know, like, let's avoid that. Let's throw him in and give him some minutes. And he's comfortable on the left hand side as well. And it'll be a fantastic aerial threat for him and Big and Jigger going up for corners.
Yeah.
So I'm all above that. Jeffy left back, don't rock the boat, get the lad minutes. No concerns there. In midfield, I think was probably going to be the most interesting because I think the front three takes care of itself. Does he bring Barron in for Rothwell? I thought Rothwell looked a bit leggy towards the end of the game, or do you need to give him minutes to get him into the flow of what we need? We're going to have plenty of the ball, and is this the type of game that we will see the best of Rothwell? Even though we've seen a lot of the ball against Motherwell, Motherwell worked their arses off to make it difficult for us, so it was a lot of easy passes. So could Rothwell be? Could we see the best of him against what would potentially a poor opposition at the weekend? And then I'd be tempted to rotate Diomande. So sorry, Johnny Walker. I know he's a massive Dio fan, but I'd be tempted to kind of refresh him a little bit, keep it fresh, keep players on the toes. By all accounts, there was a bit of a fallout between between Raskin and the manager. Let's call it healthy tension, because I think a few falling outs were needed after the game on Saturday. So again, that would probably be my only changes that I'd be intrigued to see. I don't foresee any left fielders coming in. I was going to try and go the full pod without mentioning Kyran Dow's name, but in terms of there's not too many others that I'd be looking forward to see. Your likes of Bajramis and your Bailey Rices has just seems to have fell off the face of the earth. I don't think there's that many options there. I don't think Danilo comes back in. I think Dessa's another set of minutes just to get him fully up to speed again and go from there. We've got the Alloa game in a couple of weeks. We're going to hopefully have a free week against St Mirren. So there's plenty of games kicking about to get squad players minutes coming up. I'm sure we could do bounce games and everything else that goes with it. So, and then the front three, as I say, takes care of itself. So yeah, I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that we can get the game put to bed early, and then you start to bring the changes on. The fact that I know it's been in place for a couple of seasons now that you can make 5 changes. We've just not got into the habit of putting games to bed early, and you can start to make the changes, and then and that way you start to avoid injuries that aren't needed, and your squad's fresher and conditioned a bit better. And like you say, we've got a decent run of games coming up. I'm hoping we're going to build up to a big finish in this month, and yeah, touch wood that everything goes well. But as ever, JB, Tuesdays and Thursdays are our short shows, so we are going to love you guys and leavies. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you to all the viewers that have joined in, and thank you to everybody that may be listening the next day. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're tuning in again. We will be on next post-match on Saturday, and then Sunday night at 7:30. Hope you all have a nice evening, and if you're listening tomorrow, I hope you have a nice day. Goodbye.